Welcome back to O-Level Oasis. Today we are starting past paper practice for O-Level Biology Chapter 17 on inheritance, so let us get started right away and make the most of our time. So we begin with this question. This is a paper 2 question and it says, one type of cornea plana is caused by a recessive allele. Two people who do not have cornea plana have a child who has the condition. Explain how this is possible. Now this is asking us to explain how two parents who do not show the condition can still have a child who does, so the answer is, the parents must be heterozygous or carriers or carry one affected allele. They both pass the recessive allele to their child, so the child inherits two recessive alleles and shows the condition. Even though the parents appear normal, they each carry one recessive allele, and when both of these are passed to the child ends up with two recessive alleles, which results in the condition being expressed. In the next question, it explains that ABO blood groups in humans are determined by three alleles, IA, IB, and IO. It also tells us that there are 4 blood groups, or phenotypes, but 6 different genotypes. We are asked to complete the table by matching each blood group to its possible genotypes. So, for blood group A, the possible genotypes are IAIA and IAIO. For blood group B, the genotypes are IBIB and IBIO. For blood group AB, the genotype is IAIB. And for blood group O, the genotype is IOIO, which can also be written as small I. In the next part, it says that a pregnant woman has blood group O, and the fetus developing from one of her fertilized eggs has blood group B. Part 1 asks us to state the genotype of the fetus. So, we will simply write here, the genotype is IBIO. Now we move on to the multiple choice questions. The first question says that chromosomes, DNA molecules, and genes are all pieces of inherited material with different sizes. It asks which statement correctly describes their relationship. The correct answer is A chromosome is larger than a gene. Next, the question talks about meiosis and how errors during division can produce gametes with an abnormal number of genes or chromosomes. It asks which change can result in a child having Down syndrome. The correct answer is A gamete with one extra chromosome. Moving on, the next question asks which row shows possible effects of natural selection. The correct answer is B. Natural selection does not cause mutations to occur, but it can lead to the extinction of a species. Finally, the last question states that all organisms in the same species show variation, and it lists some features. It asks which of these refer to discontinuous variation. The correct answer is C, which includes statements 2, 4, and 5. Now we have some more multiple choice questions. The first one describes a man who has 6 fingers on each hand and 6 toes on each foot. This is a genetically inherited condition caused by a dominant allele, and the man is heterozygous. His wife does not have the condition. The question asks for the probability that their child will be born with this condition. The correct answer is C, 0.5. We know that a heterozygous cross with a homozygous recessive gives a 1-to-1 ratio, which means 50% or 0.5. To solve this easily, we can use simple shorthand. We take capital B to represent the dominant allele for brown eyes, and small b to represent the recessive allele for blue eyes. A person with blue eyes, which is shown as shaded in the diagram, must have the genotype small bb, meaning 2 recessive alleles. Now, to figure out who must be heterozygous, that is one capital B and one small b, we use 2 simple rules. First is the blue parent rule. If a person has brown eyes but one of their parents has blue eyes, then they must be heterozygous with one capital B and one small b. This is because the blue-eyed parent can only pass on the recessive B allele. So, individual 3 has brown eyes but their mother, individual 2, has blue eyes, so individual 3 must be heterozygous with capital B and small b. Similarly, individual 4 has brown eyes but their mother, individual 2, is blue-eyed, so individual 4 must also be heterozygous with capital B and small b. Now, the second rule is the blue child rule. If 2 brown-eyed parents have a blue-eyed child, then both parents must be heterozygous capital B and small b. This is because the child needs to inherit a small b allele from each parent to be both small bb. So, individuals 4 and 5 both have brown eyes, but they have a blue-eyed child, individual 6. This means both of them must be heterozygous capital B and small b. Now, the others are not certain. Individual 1 has brown eyes and brown-eyed children, so they could be either both dominant capital BB or either one capital B and one small b. We cannot be sure. Individual 7 has parents who are both heterozygous with capital B and small b, so they could be either capital BB or one capital B or small b. Again, we cannot be sure. Individuals 2 and 6 are blue-eyed, so they are small bb and not heterozygous. So, the final answer is that individuals 3, 4, and 5 must be heterozygous, which corresponds to option C. Finally, the last question shows a karyotype, which is a photograph of the chromosomes of an individual. The diagram includes 3 chromosomes at position 21 and XY sex chromosomes. The question asks which description matches this karyotype. The correct answer is D, a male with Down syndrome. Because Down syndrome is caused by an extra chromosome at position 21, a condition known as trisomy 21. The XY chromosomes indicate a male, where the Y chromosome is smaller in size compared to the X chromosome. Next, we have 3 statements about natural selection, and we are asked which ones are correct. The statements explain that an organism with an advantageous inherited feature does not always pass it to its offspring, that many organisms die before they reproduce, and that organisms with more advantageous features are more likely to survive and produce offspring. The correct answer is A, statements 1, 2, and 3. Now we move on to the paper 2 questions. It says that DNA is found in the nucleus of each cell, and we have to tick the statements that correctly describe the structure of DNA. The first statement is incorrect because DNA does not have 4 strands coiled together, it actually has 2 strands forming a double helix. The second statement is correct because each strand is made up of a chain of nucleotides. The third statement is incorrect because each nucleotide contains a base, a sugar, and a phosphate group, not an amino acid. The fourth statement is correct because the bases always pair in a specific way, A with T and C with G. And the fifth statement is incorrect because the strands are held together by hydrogen bonds between the bases, not bonds between sugar molecules. Finally, the next part asks us to explain how the sequence of bases in a DNA molecule controls how a cell functions. So the answer we write is that the DNA base sequence codes for proteins by determining the order of amino acids. The order of amino acids then determines the structure and function of the protein, and these proteins may act as enzymes.